Hello, everybody, and thank you so very much for taking the time to hang out with us once again. Welcome to TLC Presents Todd-versations. We are so humbly honored that you are here today and listening, and let us fill up your brain space with cool people, cool ideas, and conversation around positive costs of food and doing things different in this world. I could not be any more excited today to share with you this message we've got. I have a guy sitting next to me over here, which way, stage left, whatever it is. Yeah, whatever it is. This is my friend, Joe Dickson, co-founder of Merryfield. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks, Todd. So excited to be here.
Thank you. And I am thrilled that you're here. I am such a big fan of the work that you have done for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, watching your trajectory, watching your heart in action, getting behind things that are important. And really, Joe, it's one of the things I think that is so cool about the work that you've done, which we're going to get into all over the place with your career and trajectory, is that you really do lead from the heart. The passion that you have inside of you to change this world, the way you're going about it is phenomenal. And I can't wait to dive in deeper with what Merryfield's up to. I can't wait to dive into your past a little bit and what propelled you. I think it's just going to be I'm looking forward to a fun day. I hope you are too, brother. I appreciate, again, you being here.
Hell yeah. So looking forward to it, Todd. And
cool. All right, let's
get that intro.
I have 27, 900. I have 479 questions for you. So we got to start.
All right. I only blocked out 3 hours. So I hope we're,
you know what? I'll come in at 252. 252 is the goal, brother. 252.
All right. We'll try to make it happen.
Sweet. So tell us, Joe, a little bit about you and, kind of your path to get to Merryfield. And then we'll start talking about Merryfield. But I think it's so important that people hear why you are where you are today and what led you there.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a little bit of a long story, but that's, I guess, why we're here.
Why we're here.
Long story. So my past. So I'm currently the co-founder and head of standards at a company called Merryfield, and we'll get into what Merryfield is and why I'm really excited about it. Prior to Merryfield, I spent about 20 years working at Whole Foods Market, and most of that time as part of the global quality standards team at Whole Foods. That's the group at Whole Foods that sets the company's standards on what goes on the shelves and why. What ingredients are banned and the food science that goes into it. What's the company's stance on animal welfare and the requirements to get meat products into the store. Same with seafood sustainability, cosmetics products, all those big questions about the ethics of what products an ethical retailer should sell and why. A lot of that research and guidance lives on this amazing team that I had the privilege of leading at Whole Foods for well over a decade. And how I got there is interesting too. And, not to bend your ear too far, but I started working for Whole Foods. I came from a marketing kind of angle. I started working for Whole Foods right out of college as part of the regional marketing team up in Boston, working on consumer communications, store openings, PR, kind of helping new consumers understand the Whole Foods mission and what it's about, and building our customer base. But what drew me to Whole Foods and what kept me in love with that job was standards. What Whole Foods was doing to really earn its consumers' trust, to do something that few other grocery stores were doing back then in the late 90s or today. Taking stands on issues, taking stands on mandatory GMO labeling, on creating strong organic standards, on animal welfare, all the stuff the company was doing to make the food system a better place and make better food available to more people. Like that's what I fell madly in love with about Whole Foods, and telling that story to consumers as a marketer was great and fun, but I really wanted to get into the details of those standards. And so when a job came up back in 2004 in Austin, working for Margaret Wittenberg, who was the VP of Quality Standards at Whole Foods, who we all know and love and revere, that struck me as the opportunity of a lifetime. And I somehow nailed it and got through an interview on video conferencing, not nice video conferencing like this. This was 2004. It was blurry and there was a sound delay, but I ended up having this, once in a lifetime opportunity to join that team at Whole Foods, guiding policy for the company, and packed my bags and moved to Texas from Massachusetts.
That's a change.
That was a change.
That was a change. But, and you talk about finding that passion, right? I fell in love with this. And, looking back at what Whole Foods has done and what you have done and what Margaret has done, Margaret is just a legend. You guys took a big risk by talking about things nobody was talking about at the time. You guys stuck your neck out. You stood up. You said, hey, wait a minute, there's a better way. And I love that. And that fuels passion, right? That had to just put fire under your feet and kept you going. So now you take that energy, and here you are, still in Austin, Texas, right? Still sitting on the farm raising goats, which I'm going to ask you about in a minute.
We'll get into that.
And we're going to get into the goats. Believe we're going to talk goats. So tell us now how you've been led and what is Merryfield.
Yeah, so Merryfield is, in a nutshell, Merryfield's a product discovery, loyalty, and rewards app aimed at mainstream grocery shoppers. So people who are shopping in grocery stores, whether they're Walmart, Whole Foods, Target, H-E-B, helping those consumers discover better brands that truly meet higher standards and rewarding those consumers for buying those brands.
Right.
The fundamental it's something I wasn't as acutely aware of until we moved to this goat farm about an hour outside of Austin. And there's no Whole Foods in our little town out here. There's a Walmart and an H-E-B. So on weekends, once we moved out here, I'd, pop into those stores to grab a few things. And what has changed really dramatically in grocery stores in the last 10 years? Well, a lot of things have changed, but one is the availability of natural, organic, clean label products. Mm-hmm. I can go into a rural Texas Walmart and fill a cart with organic options from pretty much every aisle of the store in a way that I definitely couldn't 5 or 10 years ago. Sure. Retailers like H-E-B and Target, it's even more apparent that, that consumers shopping there want clean label, better options, and the stores are carrying those products. But from a consumer perspective, it's really hard to know which brands are deserving of your trust. A lot of the brands are emerging brands that are just getting into mainstream retail that are sure. Unfamiliar. You've never heard of Health Aid Kombucha or, some of these brands. Bob's Red Mill pops up on a shelf at Walmart, and you've only ever bought Gold Medal flour, but here's Bob's Red Mill, and what is this brand I've never heard of?
Right.
So there's a familiarity issue. There's an over-choice issue. There's, 80, 90,000 SKUs in that same conventional grocery store, and there's just so many options in every aisle. There's what I call clean washing, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But, basically brands that are using deceptive and misleading label claims to lead you as a consumer to believe that their product is cleaner than it really is.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And also we're all pressed for time. As much as we want to research to the nth degree every product we're buying and every ingredient in it, like you lose attention and stamina when you're standing with your iPhone in the aisle of the grocery store trying to figure out, what this emulsifier is and whether it's bad or not. So we wanted to create a tool for consumers in those grocery stores to learn about better brands, incentivize them for buying those brands, and to help those brands stand out from this chaotic, confusing, complicated sea of brands in the grocery store.
Well, and you go to the store, what does all natural mean? Well, I mean, you can get as far as what's local mean. Local means 400 miles, 40 miles. It's all over the board. What's sustainable?
Local in Texas in some stores means from the state of Texas, which could be 12 hours away.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you're right. So you're cutting through. And I love the fact, you're cutting through a lot of the BS that's out there, and you're driving positivity into those that are willing to, like you have done in your career, to stick your neck out and to raise the bar, right? And to me, that's a positive cost of food.
Right. Absolutely. Right. And those brands, and we know a lot of those brands and love them and have grown up with them in the organic space, but they're pioneering brands that have real purpose, that are trying to create change in the food system, whether it's in organic dairy or, health supportive dietary supplements or cleaner personal care products. These are all incredible purpose-driven brands that I get really excited about and just want to help shoppers understand why they're truly better and why, by buying from these brands, you're actually helping to create the world you want to live in as a cleaner, more natural, safer, better place.
Well, you're voting with your dollars, and you guys are giving them that runway to do that. Where'd the name come from, Merryfield?
Great question. So when
I try. We're only on number 10. I try. You got another 470 to go.
Yeah, I got to pace ourselves here. When I met my business partner, David Mayer, who's the CEO and founder of Merryfield, he already had the name picked out. This is back almost 4 years ago. We first met and started talking about it. David's wife, Fawn, is from a small town in Western Massachusetts called Rowe. Beautiful part of New England, very, very rural and hilly and stunning. The historic name of that town is Merryfield. And that name was adopted from, allegedly, or according to stories, a sign that a farmer put in front of his rye field that literally said, "My rye field." And that became the name of the town, which later evolved to Rowe, but the historic name is Merryfield. And as David tells the story, he kind of, once he learned that name, was just sort of entranced by it because it evokes this sort of merry field, a happy, warm place, a clearing in a forest. And as he started to conceptualize the app and the platform we were building with Merryfield, thought that word kind of lent itself really well to this, what we were trying to create, this sort of safe, happy, trustworthy space, a field, a clearing, if you will. And so Merryfield just felt like the right fit to him for what we were building. And as he kind of explained to me why it made total sense, and the .com domain was available.
Wow.
And as we tested it with users, everyone liked the name, wanted to know more about it. Like it sort of auspiciously emerged and it fit really well.
I love it. That's a great story. I love that. So let's get into the, before we get kind of deeper into the whole process, tell everybody, or just give us a frame up of how does this work, right? How does Merryfield function? What does the app do? How does it work?
Yeah. So first of all, so Merryfield is an iPhone app at the moment. There will be an Android app launching in October for the Android part of the world. And so you as a user, you download our app. You log in the first time and tell us more about you. Are you vegan? Are you gluten-free? What do you like to buy? What age groups are you shopping for? Do you have pets? That helps us personalize the experience a little bit. And then you open the app and you use it to discover brands that are Merryfield members. So all of our Merryfield member brands, and there's about 45 of them right now, all of them offer you rewards every time you buy any of their products and scan your receipt on Merryfield. So Applegate, Health-Aid, Stonyfield, Primal Kitchen, all these brands, every time you buy any product from any one of those brands, you get rewards on Merryfield. Aside from those are what we call everyday rewards.
Right.
Above and beyond that, and you open the app and you learn about those brands and then down below the list of brands, you have special offers. Those are digital coupons. They're higher value offers on specific products, like a coupon you'd clip out of the Sunday paper that might be $1 or $2 or $5 or more off a specific product. They tend to be limited in time. What's amazing is by combining everyday rewards, some of which are boosted. The baseline is 1% or 10 points per dollar in Merryfield points. A lot of brands are boosting those to 5, 10, sometimes even 20% cash back. By combining the everyday rewards and special offers, like I'll often go into Whole Foods and using my Merryfield app to get rewards on stuff I probably was going to buy anyway, brands I love from the work I've been doing. I'll get like 10, 15, 20 bucks back on a $100, $150 Whole Foods transaction. They really add up and provide really good value to consumers for buying these products. So you learn about your brands, you find your special offers, activate the ones you want, and then you literally use your phone to take a picture of your receipt. Our app in real time scans your receipt, recognizes brands and products that are rewardable. It rewards you points in real time. You see a wonderful waterfall of coins showing the rewards you've accumulated. And then you spend those points on gift cards to Starbucks or Whole Foods or Chipotle or Sephora. There's several dozen gift card recipients in the app.
Right.
You put your, trade in your points for gift cards. It gives you a digital gift card right within the app that you can bring up to the barista and scan your barcode or add it directly to your Starbucks app and your gift card balance. So it's a really simple system. You learn a bit about the brands and our standards. You shop like you normally would at the grocery store. Take a really quick picture of your receipt and earn points for that. For a bunch of retailers too, we're now doing digital receipt recognition so for Target.com, Walmart.com, Kroger, Wegmans, Publix, a bunch of retailers. We actually integrate directly with that loyalty program so that you don't have to scan your paper receipt. We scan your Wegmans account for you. And when there is rewardable transactions, you just get a push notification on your phone that you've just earned your Merryfield points.
This Todd-versation is brought to you by The Wellness Dish, bite-sized strategies to cultivate health. Join us online at thewellnessdish.com.
Wow. So let me get this right. You're teaching people how to buy brands that are making a difference in the world. You're getting rewarded doing it. I don't know. Seems like a pretty good idea to me. Making a positive change, being rewarded for doing it. But really what's great is that, going back to what we just said earlier about, the word sustainable and local and this and that, we're working to reinforce good decisions. We're working to reinforce, again, driving positive costs into food. If a company, in my mind, if a company is willing to, as you have done in your career, stick your neck out, go out there, make a difference, be transparent, talk about some of the tough issues and try to tackle them, why wouldn't we celebrate them? I love this platform for that. And I think it's just an absolute gift that you guys have come up with. And it's so great. And I thank you for starting us off about where you came from, because I think it's so important now that you've shared what the app is and how it's working, you can see where your heart comes into all this, which is what I just love.
Well, and that's really like where my heart really came into Merryfield, and whereas I got to know David and thought about joining what he wanted to build, it was ultimately the potential impact that, the work that Whole Foods has done is pioneering and legendary and amazing.
For sure.
But it's a small percentage of Americans that shop at Whole Foods. And the idea of creating something that uses the power of standards and thoughtful product curation to help everyone wherever they shop, anyone who wants to buy cleaner products and make better decisions, like that impact was really what drew me here.
Oh, for sure. I would think it was. I mean, I think if you fell in love with what you were doing in the past, this is like 2.0, right? I mean, this is like just ramped up and going hard at it.
And it's something too, like, I love it. It wouldn't have necessarily made sense 10 or 15 years ago. Like
Probably not.
If you went into a Walmart, then you'd be hard pressed to find any organic produce or, stuff that clean label shoppers really want to buy. But that has completely changed. And we're here to meet people wherever they're shopping and help them understand the issues, find better brands, and reward them for buying them.
For doing it. So let's go back to standards a little bit, because I think that's obviously that is your bailiwick and where you're at, but I don't necessarily know if everybody's completely 100% dialed into what that actually means, right? So what does it mean, right? What do standards mean? And I think that's a great place to start as we kind of lean into how Merryfield is moving forward.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And there's a lot of different answers and a lot of different kinds of standards that are out there. When I was working at Whole Foods, the company had and has a set of standards that are just rules governing what they'll sell and why. A list of ingredients, a set of requirements around animal welfare, et cetera. Merryfield has a set of standards that are similar. We also have a list of ingredients we don't allow, some variation from other lists that are out there. Rules for animal products, rules for personal care products, and what ingredients aren't allowed, and that animal testing is never allowed. Sets of rules like that. A lot of the standards that I've worked on and talk about are what we call third-party standards. They're managed by a credible third-party outside organization. It isn't the food company. It isn't the retailer. It's a standards organization. It may be the USDA in the case of organic.
Right.
And we'll talk about that. The Non-GMO Project, which is a nonprofit that owns and operates the Non-GMO Project verified standard.
Right.
And in those cases, the standard is a rigorous set of rules that govern who gets to use the label claim, whether it's the USDA Organic Seal, the Non-GMO Project, Butterfly. There's dozens, if not hundreds, of programs out there, and I'm not going to list them all. But what they have in common is a strong standard and certification program ensures a consumer that the promise that's being made on the label is true. That if you follow the supply chain back down through the factories, through the fields, through the animal product farms, whatever that supply chain looks like.
Right.
If we're making a fair trade claim on a label, it requires us to go back down the supply chain and look at trading conditions and a whole other set of factors than just what's in the box. But at the end of the day, those certification programs ensure that the promise made to the consumer on the label is actually true. And that's what it boils down to, and why I'm so obsessed with standards and why I've spent so much time, is they provide assurance to that consumer that the product they're buying is having the impact in the world that they think it has and want it to have.
Well, yeah, and I think that we've done a good job in this country of masking things, right? Masking the reality around our food, right? And I say this all the time, there's a reason why the FDA starts with the word food, right? Food and drug, right? Food is a drug. Food is very powerful. And we need to recognize that. It has the power to hurt us as much as it does have the power to heal us. And I love the fact that you guys are driving transparency into the system, to where somebody that is making a claim out there that says, well, this stuff is, the greatest thing since whatever, you can kind of get away with that in the world today. But your system is allowing us to take a moment of pause and say, hey, time out. We want to talk about why this is so good, right? And that's what I think I love about what you guys are doing. You're not really focused on the negative per se. You're about uplifting these brands. You're about uplifting that message. There's so much positivity in what Merryfield's doing. I love that part about it, right? It's not a finger point. It's like, let's uplift these brands because they're worthy of conversation.
Yeah. No, I'm a big believer in positivity and how we approach this. And, also not making people feel bad. Everyone's in a different place on their, nutritional or wellness journey, and buying different things organic and different things non-GMO and whatever. Like, I don't want to scare anyone into thinking that, the crackers or the cookies or the buns that they're buying are going to kill them or are bad and should be thrown away. But I do want to help, in that category. If you're interested in learning about some crackers that are non-GMO project verified or grain-free and what that means, or
right.
What organic actually means when you see that seal on a package of chicken breasts. Like, I want to help that consumer understand that there is benefit and there is real value there, without name calling or making anyone feel too bad.
Absolutely. But again, if we're going to change this world, if we're going to try to wrong or right some of the wrongs that, are in front of us and these challenges that we're going to face, we're going to have to start having some of these conversations about uplifting brands that are making a difference. And I just think it's super worthy. And I'm very appreciative again of the efforts and what you guys are trying to build. Can you explain what a clean standard is?
Yeah, I can try. It's a tough question. So clean is a funny word. Has nothing to do with cleaning products, although it kind of does, because we have standards for cleaning products as well. But, clean label as a term has emerged as this sort of alternative to, we used to use the word natural to describe the universe of products. And, we found that for some consumers, it's not actually a desirable attribute. It's been the subject of some lawsuits over whether or not a given ingredient is actually natural. There's no accepted definition of natural out there. And people, over the last few years, it's come to pass that people seem to prefer clean label as this, descriptor for products that don't have unnecessary artificial crappy ingredients you don't want, artificial preservatives and sweeteners, emulsifiers that are highly processed. Like, there's just, as a blanket term for food with stuff you don't want, clean has emerged as this sort of vernacular term for that, which is great. I think it makes a lot of sense. It appeals to a bigger group of consumers, but it's also completely undefined. There's been all this media attention to the growth of clean label, and especially in trade publications about, just sort of consumer desires for and perceptions about clean label products and what they're avoiding and why. Nobody out there has gone to about defining the term and saying, okay, which ingredients are excluded? Like, probably artificial colors and flavors, but what about some of these gums and fillers? Whole Foods has a list. Kroger's Simple Truth has a list.
Right.
Almost every retailer with a clean private label has a list of banned ingredients. None of them align with each other. And when we set out to create Merryfield, we too wanted to, as a baseline, start with, these are the ingredients we don't allow and why. And working with a lot of industry experts, I went through pretty much all the food and personal care and supplement ingredients that are out there. And we have a viewpoint on what we don't allow and why. And we, as shorthand, will refer to that as our definition of clean label. But it, again, is, we just created another definition that I believe is the best one out there, but I'm deeply biased. But, so it's an issue. I don't see, the FDA has said that they intend to define the term natural, and they still haven't quite done that. I don't see a governmental actor taking a role in defining clean in the near future.
No.
So I think, the onus is on the industry, and, hopefully with what we're doing with Merryfield, as we grow in visibility and grow our brand collective, I think that the standards we've created, for me, are the best definition of clean that I've seen to date.
Yeah, so clean standard. What's clean washing? Right, that's another one I see floating out.
I mean, we're all familiar, I hope, with greenwashing. When a company uses some environmental claim to, create a halo on its product when it has some other like awful environmental practice hiding behind it, or
right.
Clean washing is a version of that. I didn't invent the term. Some others in our industry have used it earlier than I did, but I wish I had invented it. It's when a brand uses a label claim. They get rid of what. Here's a good example I went home for the 4th of July and was at a backyard barbecue, and I'm a horrible party guest because I read labels and can't be near a food product figuring out what's in it and what its certifications are. But you have this package of hamburger buns from a leading national brand. Front label says no high fructose corn syrup and no colors from artificial sources. That's great. They want to appeal to ostensibly a clean label consumer who wants to buy cleaner products and is certainly avoiding high fructose corn syrup and artificial colors. So you turn the bag over, and first of all, it has plenty of added sugar. So no high fructose corn syrup, plenty of added sugar. But most importantly, it has artificial preservatives and artificial sweeteners.
Right.
Which I was shocked. I didn't expect to find Splenda in a hamburger bun, but there it is on the back label. And, a consumer avoiding artificial colors is probably also avoiding artificial preservatives. That's just a fact.
Right.
So that's a great example of clean washing. Front label claims that are technically true, but mask other practices or ingredients that consumer would probably also be avoiding.
Go ahead.
I have so many. I won't share all my examples of clean washing, but I have a whole, spreadsheet of them. Another big one that gets me going is hormone free. So you go into a meat department, you see, lots of different beef and pork and turkey products. You go and see some ham that says hormone free or raised without growth hormones, and you think, oh, that's good. That must be, a good brand that's taking care of their animals somehow. But growth hormones are only used with beef in this country. They're never used with poultry. They're never used with swine. So if you see hormone free on any of those, it's just likely conventional meat.
Right.
There are no growth hormones you can use on a pig. So you see it on a beef product, yeah, it does actually have some meaning and differentiate it from other brands in the category, but doesn't mean anything there. And brands are putting it on there because they're just kind of grabbing for something positive sounding they can put on their label to appeal to a consumer. But it actually means literally nothing.
Right. Yeah. Do you think when you look at these labels, and I know that you do they have a tendency to lean into the buzzwords, like you were saying, about the hamburger buns, right? Here's the things that here's the attributes, because they're fairly common in our conversation. They're very common in our vernacular out there in the shopping experience, so they all gravitate to that same kind of buzzwords.
Oh yeah, without question. I mean, it used to be all natural until people started getting sued a lot for using that claim. Now, I mean, no artificial is a big one where, you look at, for example, Jell-O has, they tout that there are no artificial sweeteners on the label. So they have a no artificial claim. There's still artificial colors in it. Right. But by putting a no artificial, like on the front label, they're just banking on the consumer seeing that one no artificial and being like, oh, it's clean. And it's not. I mean, it's definitely got artificial colors in it. So I think the non-GMO is a really big one. I am very adamant. I love non-GMO Project Verified because it goes so far in certifying, verifying, going back down the supply chain, making sure even the animal feed is non-GMO. So if you see a non-GMO Project seal on a tub of yogurt, that means the cattle were fed non-GMO feed.
Right.
You see an unverified non-GMO claim, especially on, say, a tub of ice cream or anything with a dairy or animal ingredient, chances are it's unverified because they're not warranting that the animals were fed non-GMO feed, if you really dig in. And that's important for someone who's avoiding, wants to vote with their dollars for non-GMO agriculture. That cow who made that milk that went into that ice cream was being fed GMO corn and soy. And if you're trying to show the world that you don't support that type of agriculture and you want to vote against it, that's, it's not honoring your intent to make a non-GMO claim on that product.
Right. Well, I think a lot of times consumers have a tendency to be sheep looking for a shepherd sometimes. And I think that manufacturers have a tendency to maybe treat us as not the smartest folks out there sometimes. And to your point about washing and changing and all this other stuff, it's a real tragedy out there because we get inundated by these buzzwords that in hindsight, like you've just shared, can come back and certainly nip you. I want to ask a couple. This is a three-part question. It's the same question, but I got three versions of it I want to ask you. And hopefully this should be kind of interesting. Share a few things that are in the food system today. And the first part of this question is, tell me something that you're shocked by that's in the current food system today.
Ooh. How many examples can I give? I guess we have like 3 more hours too.
Yeah, we're good. We got plenty of time.
So shocked by, one of them, I'm always shocked by, I forget this fact and then I come back to it. There's our government regulation from FDA of beauty products and personal care products is so minimal, it's frankly terrifying. The law that authorizes the FDA to regulate beauty products was passed in 1938. It hasn't been substantially updated since then. You look at the thousands of personal care ingredients that are banned in Europe, and then come back to the US, and it's less than 100. Wow. That's shocking to me. And it's worse for cleaning products. That's another shocker to me is when early in planning Merryfield, I was looking at what's out there in the cleaning aisles of conventional grocery stores. You turn over half the products in the aisles and they don't list the ingredients. So you can't, let alone, whether or not they're using bad ingredients, and a lot of them are using ingredients that are potentially toxic or bad for the environment or both. You can't even make a decision on whether or not you want the ingredients in the product because they're not listed on the label.
You have stumped the commissioner on that one. That is something I'm glad I asked this question.
Yeah, go to Walmart and look at some bathroom cleaning products and try to figure out what the ingredients are. Some brands are transparent and some, have a pretty robust listings on their websites, but not all of them. Wow. So that's shocking. Another shocker to me is, I talked about the hormone-free claim, but the USDA natural claim on meat. I believe that a consumer sees the word natural on hot dogs or deli meat and thinks it means something about the life of the animal that, made that product.
Right.
And it doesn't. Natural just means, as the USDA defines it for meat, that the product is minimally processed. It doesn't have added, nitrates or synthetic preservatives or but it means absolutely nothing about what happens before the slaughterhouse. It can be applied to conventional animals that are fed GMOs and given antibiotics and growth hormones if they're beef. It means nothing. And so it allows, some animal products from pretty miserable conditions to get a positive consumer-facing claim that makes people feel better about what they're buying.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's undeserved. That's another one that I just, in my time in grocery stores, just walking the aisles and seeing what's out there, that's one that I react pretty emotionally to, because it involves people, having the peace of mind that they're buying a product that's potentially higher welfare and better for the animals, and it's not at all.
Wow.
Thousands.
It's, again, and this, I hope, my goal in our conversations, I hope people stop for a moment and go, oh shit, wait a minute, I didn't know that. What? Huh? What's that? What do you mean? And I think it's so important. That moment of pause can make a difference in this world for everybody. And I hope we're forcing a moment of pause with people. So same question, something within the current food system that we didn't know? I mean, you already got me with the labels on the cleaning product. Dig up one more for me.
Oh,
Something
we did know. I mean,
yes.
I mean, a lot of, when I talk about clean standards and people, want to know, well, the FDA says these are safe, or General Mills is using this ingredient, or whatever. I'm a huge proponent of the precautionary principle. And especially when we're dealing with products that don't exist in nature, unless there's a really compelling reason to use it. There are some synthetic additives that I think have a place in the food system. All else being equal, if there's a less processed, more natural ingredient to use it. And, that's why, with artificial flavors, for example, I mean, there's so much variability in what goes into that formulation. But for every one of them, there is a natural version that tastes the same, if not better. And so, I think there's a lot we don't know. There are a lot of color additives that were once allowed that became banned because of emerging medical research about their impact.
Right.
We, including the natural products industry, we were all using partially hydrogenated oils well into the 2000s, not knowing until medical research, led us to understand more fully how bad trans fats are for our cardiovascular health.
Sure.
There's a lot like that. I think, one area I saw when I think about what we don't know, one area that I think about a lot is glyphosate. That's an herbicide that, was reviewed and approved for, kind of pre the GMO era.
Right.
An herbicide that was used at much lower levels than it is now. There's a lot of troubling data on its relationship to cancer and cell degradation.
Yep. And
we are, between all of the Roundup Ready crops and its use as a desiccant in wheat and oats, like we are using an unholy amount of glyphosate. And I don't think we know fully, as an industry or a scientific community, what the impact of that is on people eating the produce.
Well, 100% agree with that. And I think that's one of the scariest things about some of the decisions we make today. We make a decision for the now, but not a decision based on tomorrow. And right. I think glyphosate is exactly this.
Evaluate an herbicide based on it being used to clear a field 6 months before harvest, but then we start spraying it on crops immediately pre-harvest.
Right.
I would rather, as a consumer and, a thinker about food systems, err on the side of caution and just not do that. Yes, it helps your yield a little bit, whatever, but and that's, to me, one of the greatest strengths of the USDA organic seal is that from a consumer perspective, it is shorthand for eliminating so many ingredients, not just food ingredients, but agricultural chemicals like glyphosate and right. all the synthetic herbicides and fertilizers. And that to me is one of the powers of that seal, is that it eliminates all of those unknowns, or so many of those unknowns, by intrinsically favoring natural methods and substances over synthetic ones.
Right. So part 3 of my question, magic wand time for you. Give me something you want to fix ASAP in the current food system.
Well, besides glyphosate, which I covered.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's fine if you want to go with it. I mean, I don't have a problem.
No, I think, one of the things I want to fix ASAP, and one of the reasons I started Merryfield, is I feel like the grocery store is transforming. There's more clean label products, natural and organic options than ever before, like we discussed. Sure. But I don't think it's happening fast enough. And I want to accelerate that transformation. There is no reason that we need to, can't crowd out the bad brands, that there needs to be, mayonnaise on the grocery shelf with disodium EDTA in it, or that there's so many examples of just bad stuff that doesn't need to be there. And I want to really help by opening consumers' minds, helping them understand the issue, really help them show their demand for better products, and help the better brands that I'm working with crowd out everyone else on the grocery shelves. I want to walk into a grocery store and not feel like the onus is on me to do the research and avoid the bad stuff. I want to get that feeling, walking into the grocery store where I don't have to worry, and it feels safe, and there's a sense of relief and trust that, the stuff I'm buying isn't going to harm my family.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Great answer. Thank you for that. So in the app and on Merryfield and what you guys are doing, you've got product categorized. You've got different categories. You've got, a plant-based category. You've got no artificial preservatives, non-GMO, school safe, which I think is cool. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. And, what was the goal about getting so specific? Is it just, are you trying to help people like in their lifestyle? Like there's keto, like you're trying to keep people in their lane of where their lives are today?
Yes. And yes, I mean, there's other reasons too. I think product attributes like, EWG verified for personal care products or plant-based or just organic or non-GMO. They help people align what they're buying with their beliefs. And, somebody who's really committed to organic, seeing the USDA organic seal, on a product page on our app or on the label, helps them make sure that what they're buying is what they want to buy. Right. But they also, I think, and this is why I was so adamant about putting them in the app. They help educate people. You might be looking at a product page and see that it's organic and non-GMO. And if you're in the store looking at a soup label, you can't click on that non-GMO and remind yourself what it means.
Right.
But within Merryfield, we can do that. So you click your organic, USDA organic seal, and you're reminded as a consumer that it means that the product is grown, processed, and raised without over 700 toxic and persistent chemicals. Right. And it actually links to Organic Voices' great ad campaign about what's not in organic right from that page in our app. So for a consumer who wants to dig deeper, they can learn more. Same with Non-GMO Project. It's a reminder of what GMOs are, why you might avoid them, and a link to way more information from the Non-GMO Project. So
what about School Safe?
School Safe is so important. I don't have kids, so I'm insulated from this, but most of our team are parents. And School Safe means that a product is free of the top 8 or sometimes 9 or 10 allergens. School safe products are ones that you can bring to school knowing that for most kids, they will not elicit an anaphylactic reaction. There are, of course, people with less common allergies, but the top 8 in the FDA regulations are the most prevalent. And so school safe just means you can bring this to your kid's school and not worry about allergic reactions.
Wow.
A lot of schools now actually require that.
That's pretty cool. I love the fact that not only are we talking about transparency of the product, but you're giving people a runway that is really about their lifestyle.
Well, and I also, wanted to put stuff in there too, that like everything on Merryfield has no artificial preservatives, but we put that bug in there just as an education point to remind someone like why that matters and why you might avoid artificial preservatives if you want to know.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's great. But again, it's about transparency. It's about uplifting the brands. It's about getting people a little bit smarter. I think that, empowering ourselves to make good food choices is really important. I think that we cannot rely on other people to do the heavy lifting for us any longer. I don't think that's working out.
Exactly. And I don't want someone to tell me what to buy necessarily. Like I appreciate more information, but I think we all have to get to our own place and evolve our thinking. And ultimately at the end of the day, decide what we're going to bring home. And we're here to help you, provide you information, help you, better understand the impact of those actions. But, we all want to make our own decisions.
Absolutely. And I want to share a little bit, because we've chatted and it's not a groundbreaking announcement, but nonetheless, you guys are getting ready to start looking at produce now.
Yeah.
And absolutely. start up in your game. Can you share a little bit about where that trajectory is going to take you?
Yeah. First of all, inherently, because of the way we built our app, it's based on receipt scanning and UPC scanning. The focus initially has been packaged products with decent national distribution. But fresh produce is a mandatory part of anyone's healthy diet. And, in an ideal world, would be able to work with all kinds of produce brands and reward all kinds of produce purchases. And we will get there. But for now, the focus is looking for brands that have some decent national distribution and have UPCs on them. So we're not yet able to work with random weight PLU'd, apples in a bin, but for packaged leafy greens and, mushrooms and other specialty produce categories that are packaged. Our technology now is able to reward those purchases. So I'm very interested in meeting with and talking to brands in that space. Right now we are working with Love Beets, which is a great brand that's merchandised in produce with refrigerated, ready to eat beets, which I don't know, but I'm pretty sure everyone hates cooking beets because it's just so complicated and stains your countertop and your fingers. And yeah, ready to eat instant beets are my favorite convenience food of the year. But we're looking for other folks like that to, help people, help reinforce that fresh produce is a really critical part of the plate. And while our focus has been on packaged products, we want to make sure that we're, highlighting every part of the grocery store and the amazing products that are out there.
I was going to say the same thing. We want every square inch of that shopping cart filled with brands that are uplifted and carrying a message of positivity.
And with so many pioneering great brands with amazing stories that I want to amplify for consumers. It's been so nice to work with some real organic pioneers on the platform. I mentioned Applegate, which is an organic meat pioneer, but also Stonyfield is one of our member brands. Lundberg Farms, the organic rice pioneers. We earlier this year added Uncle Matt's organic orange juice to the platform. And I know there are organic pioneers and more emerging brands of that caliber and that commitment to organics in the fresh produce world. And, would love to have them be part of the collective.
I love it. Well, here you go, folks. We're ready to roll. Let's go. Let's get produce elevated. Let's keep it going. Positivity and food. I love it. Absolutely. Tell me a little bit. Let's talk about your team, because you've got a really unique group of folks that are with you now that have been working for you and building this thing. And I just think that the background of your team and who they all are, I think is just super important. I know you've added a new team member. So if you could share a little bit about, your core group and what you guys are about.
Yeah, no, it's I'm continually humbled and blown away that we were able to build the team that we built. When David and I set out to build this thing, we knew to do it well and to do it in a reasonable time frame. We're going to have to pull together an all-star cast of mature leaders in marketing and digital product and technology to get where we needed to go. And so, our CMO, Sandrine, she was the head of marketing at the Runkeeper app, which was then acquired by A6, where she continued to lead marketing for their digital products. Our head of digital product was the VP of digital product at American Express, Jenny Alexson. She helped build and launch the Plenty rewards platform for Amex and is a digital product and user experience guru. Our president, Melissa, she helped build and ran for a number of years the CVS Extra Care program, one of the largest, if not the largest, consumer loyalty and insights programs out there. And our editorial director came from SoulCycle, where she helped build the SoulCycle brand and community and voice, and is now doing the same for Merryfield. And then we have this amazing tech team doing great work, a customer experience team. We're very fortunate. And I also have to mention, in talking about our team, we have a group of 13 full-time employees that are our team. We also, a big part of Merryfield is the Clean Council. That's my steering committee of advisors on what our standards are and why. And that includes Errol Schweitzer, who is the former VP of Grocery at Whole Foods and a leading advocate for integrity and justice and equity in the food system. Mia Davis is the VP of Sustainability at Credo Beauty. She also created the beauty standards for Beauty Counter. Worked with companies like The Honest Company and dozens of others. She was an advocate with the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics. She's sort of the leading advocate for clean beauty. And then Kim McDevitt's a full part of our team. She's she has a master's in public health and is a registered dietitian. And steers our work on nutrition, especially with kids and athletes and sort of the what to eat and why questions. She spent a lot of her career with vegan nutrition and is just an amazing resource. So they're part of our team. And then the most recent update to our team, which is super exciting, the new girl on our team, if you will, is Zoe Deschanel, the amazing actress, musician, and advocate for sustainability. We knew that we wanted to work with a celebrity to help raise our profile and build our user base, and we're introduced to Zoe through some mutual connections. And I've always been a fan of her work, both, TV and film and music, but, meeting her face to face or Zoom to Zoom and starting to talk about our mission, fireworks went off. She's done a lot of work around sustainability, helping families better understand some of the issues behind what we buy and why. She actually produced a series of short documentaries called Your Food's Roots that gets to seafood sustainability, bread production, organic benefits, sort of all the big issues. And is just a naturally curious mom who, has set out to really think about what she buys for her family and why, and really aligned with us on our mission and what we wanted to accomplish. And so Zoe joined Merryfield as Chief Creative Officer and co-founder last month, and I could not be more excited about the partnership.
This Todd-versation is brought to you by The Wellness Dish, bite-sized strategies to cultivate health. Join us online at thewellnessdish.com.
I think it's great. It elevates your game, and I love the fact that we're doing that. But I want to touch on something. You're talking about the people that work there, and people are like, oh, it's a startup, somebody from this place and from this place and blah, 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 blah. But I think people need to be mindful that the folks that have come to Merryfield were already on a runway. They're already doing it. They're already crushing, they're already killing it. They made a choice from they made a choice from inside saying, I want to come to this place because of what it is and because of what it is doing. And I think that's something that you should be proud of, for one, but something I think is really says a lot about where you guys are heading and the mission of and the purpose of what Merryfield's about. And so I wanted to kind of take a second just to say, hey, look, yeah, it might be real impressive. They got some great resumes, but those folks all made a choice to go with their heart to come to Merryfield.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what really brought the team together, was David and my initial passion for what we wanted to create, and finding people who really resonated with that vision and mission and impact we wanted to have. I mean, every single person on the team, especially including Zoe, but all of us, have a big alignment on the change we want to see in the world and how we want to do it.
Absolutely. You guys are purpose-driven company. It's very cut and very clear. And I'm a big believer in purpose. I have it. It's sitting up here on my logo all the time, right? It's about purpose. And I believe that you can't create a strategy and find your purpose. You have to have a purpose in order to find your strategy. And I think that Merryfield exemplifies that point, is that you guys really are a purpose-driven company. What's that mean to you, being a purpose-driven company?
And we talk about a lot of, or frankly, all of our member brands as being purpose-driven companies. A purpose-driven company, aside from making money or increasing shareholder value or standard, business stuff, has a why, a reason that the brand exists and an impact that they want to make in the world. Whether it's to make organic dairy products more accessible and available to families, or, one of our brands, I always go back to Quinn Snacks when I'm talking about purpose. Quinn was founded because their founder was outraged by the really crappy chemicals used in microwave popcorn bags. And she just wanted to have convenient, safer food for her family, and then branched out into a lot of visionary work around sourcing ingredients and regenerative agriculture. But it really started with this moment of what the hell? This is messed up and I want to fix it. So I think in general, what sort of brings all of the purpose-driven brands together is you can very clearly articulate a reason and a why and an impact that the brand wants to have in the world above and beyond maximizing shareholder value.
Right. Agree 100%. Well said. Well said. So what's next? What's next out there for consumers in the world? That's a big question. That's a 35,000 foot question.
It's a funny time to ask that question. We're all possibly starting to get back to normal after, being in our houses and cooking all of our own food for a year and a half. And there's a lot of things that make me optimistic for what's next for consumers. Organic just had its best year ever with, 20% year over year increase in sales in general, and some other really inspiring data points from different categories. We saw in 2008, and we saw it again in 2020, that when people stop eating out, either because of a recession or a pandemic, they start cooking at home. And when you start cooking at home, you actually trade up a little bit and buy some better products, choose organic produce a little more, buy more premium products and kind of think more critically about what you're cooking and why. And I think my hope is, and anecdotally what I'm seeing, I think a lot of that will stick a bit. That people aren't going to go back to eating out and take out at the same levels. And that as we're cooking in our homes, we're just thinking more critically about what we're buying. I think for sure. And also, I mean, enabling that too is just the breadth of information that is available about nutrition and diet and wellness and agriculture. It's overwhelming, it's complicated, it's often hard to sort out which information is the most reliable. But I think people over the past 10 or more years have just become incrementally more and more educated about the food system, our own health, and the impact that we have with our purchases.
Right. Agree. Beautifully said. So what's next for Merryfield?
So what's immediately next for Merryfield that I'm really excited about is our Android app, which we're launching in October. That's important because that's, 30-40% of people are using Android devices, and we want Merryfield to be open and accessible to everyone with a smartphone. And so that will help us grow our community of users. What's also next is building our collective. Now that we have Zoe on board, our focus over the next few months is adding to our wonderful collective of purpose-driven brands, and continue. A lot of our consumers tell us they love Merryfield, but they want to see more brands on the app, and that's one of our most exciting areas of focus, I think, for the rest of this year, is to grow that community.
Absolutely.
And then longer term, I mean, I talked about this. I want Merryfield to play a big role in helping to really transform or catalyze the transformation of the grocery store that's already taking place. Like, what can we do to help, sort of galvanize and focus the collective impact of our consumers on making grocery stores better and crowding out the junky stuff? And to that end, I mean, my long-term fantasy for Merryfield is that, that Merryfield approval or meeting our standards or being a Merryfield member brand becomes a consumer-facing mark with real consumer trust and value.
I love it. Well, look, it's hard to be a grocery shopper today, right? We're so many choices, so many different claims, so many different this, so many different that, so many ways of trying to say the same thing, but just try to say it a little better than the guy next to me on the shelf. Yeah. And, I truly appreciate, and I think everybody else does, the effort and what you guys are trying to do. It's time, man. It's got a runway. It's got a place. It's the right time for this. We need it. We need Merryfield out there.
Thank you. Well said.
I try, man. I try. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit, because you've had such great things in your life and have been uplifted and done some really, really cool stuff. And in our talking, back and forth, and I've known you for a while, and BSing back and forth a little bit, you shared something with me that I just thought was really cool. You got a quote that you put into practice. You got a quote that you aspire to and live with. It's something that changed your life a little bit. And I read through it. And I thought it was kind of cool. Can you share with everybody what it is?
Yeah. Can I share the story around it just a little bit?
Go, dude.
It's funny, in preparing for this, I knew from your other episodes, you'd probably ask me for a meaningful quote. And that's always such a tough question. And I was thinking about that and reflecting on just sort of quotes I go back to. And one of the ones that's been most powerful in my life, it is from a poem by Marge Piercy called Seven of Pentacles. And it was read at the opening of the National Organic Standards Board meeting in 2013 by Miles McAvoy, who was then the deputy administrator and ran the National Organic Program, is a lifer organic advocate and visionary who I'm sure a lot of your listeners know well. Miles, it was a contentious time. We were having a lot of really difficult conversations as an organic community. At the time, we were talking about the use of antibiotics in tree fruit production. I won't go too far down that rabbit hole, but it was divisive. There were a lot of different viewpoints at that table, and there wasn't really a resolution in sight. And it was a little bit of a troublesome, slightly dark period for the community. And Miles gave an update about what's happening at the National Organic Program. And then he read a poem at the end, and every word of it has sat with me since then. I won't do a full reading on your podcast here, but the core of that poem is, and I'll quote, Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot tell always by looking what is happening. More than half of the tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. And it goes on, and I'll share a link so you can share the link.
Oh, cool.
Home. It's one of my favorite. I mean, I have it framed in my office. But that sentiment that, you can't tell by looking fully what is happening. We don't know the whole story. We're limited by recognition, our ability to understand. We're limited by our unique perspective, and to always, sort of leave yourself open to this idea that you don't necessarily understand the whole story, and that it'll grow slowly and come into view and you'll understand more of it. But I think we have this natural desire to fully understand and explain everything. And, we don't know how. We're we're flawed and limited creatures with a lot of cognitive biases, and the whole story is bigger than we think it is. And it's important to remember, whether you're trying to come to an agreement about antibiotics and pear production or charting the course of your own life. Like, I love that line, because it actually, calls forth a vivid visual image of a tree and the ground and its root system below, looking, almost like a human lung, just being so much more of the story. Systems are more complex than we usually think they are, and I really believe in reverence and,
I love it.
Humility is the word I'm striving for here.
Well, I said in the very beginning, I'll say it again. You come from the heart, man. And that statement, brings that right up. And if you think about that statement and everything we've just talked about with Merryfield and what you all are about, it's like, wow, that seems to make a hell of a lot of sense right there. Right? I mean, you can see that, you can hear your words come through that with everything we've talked about. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, I read through it. It's pretty impactful. It's pretty cool. And what a unique place to hear it. Right? I mean, you wouldn't expect to be in an NLSP.
Nobody expects a poem at a federal advisory committee meeing, especially one that, honestly, I will say has changed the course of my life.
That's powerful.
In 2013, I went back to that poem a couple of times, honestly, as we were trying to figure out, we're thinking about buying a farm and becoming agriculturalists and ranchers. And we weren't sure whether that was the right path, and had many serious late night conversations about whether it was silly to think that, in addition to our full-time jobs, my husband and I would become goat and chicken farmers with 60 acres of land in the forest. And we did it and don't regret it. It was amazing. But that poem was sort of a divining rod as we went through that process and thought about who we wanted to be and what we wanted to accomplish.
All right, here we go. Tell me about these goats.
Goats. There is a proverb, an old farm saying, whatever, a country saying, if a man has no problems, give him a goat. Goats are mischievous. They will find the weakest point in any fence line. They will jump on your car. They're amazing. We initially got goats on our property, honestly, to help us clear brush in the most ecological way possible, rather than doing burns or using some pretty sketchy herbicides. We bought goats to help us clear Yopon holly off of our property, and then got into breeding goats and selling them. A little bit of dairy and meat production from goats. But yeah, we right now have a herd of about 30, mainly Nubian with a few Boer goats mixed in. They're not quite pets, but we love them. And their job is to help us clear brush, and they're good workers. So
I love it. But also but you've also, now that you've got this property, you've also kind of turned it into a little bit of a sanctuary as well, right? You guys you're not just kind of laying back with the goats. I mean, you've done some good work.
No, we manage the property as a sanctuary for songbirds mainly, but also white-tailed deer and all native species. We work with a number of biologists and researchers to optimize our land as songbird habitat. So the brush clearing is actually part of that, providing water sources and food plots and seed for birds. looking at every part of our ecosystem and asking what we can do to, optimize it as a habitat for the species that naturally live here. Here in Central Texas, as in a lot of the West, pre-civilization, periodic natural wildfires would clear out a lot of the understory and create an optimal habitat for grazing and flying animals. We do our best to not let wildfires happen anymore. And for good reason, but there are environmental consequences where, the forest gets choked out by these plants that would normally be periodically wiped out by wildfire. And so a lot of our management is kind of simulating with goats what wildfires would do naturally.
I love it. Well, and wildfires and wildfire management's a big issue, and it's a big problem. And it's, you take a look here in California with the issues that we have, and you take a look at the forest, these dead trees that are out there that are dying because of the beetle that's inside of them. And the only way that the beetle gets eradicated is by the forest burning, starting that, and restarting that life cycle. And we're making, forest management's a very hot, touchy subject. And I'm one that believes that we've got to do a better job of that, because it's so environmentally impactful to us to make sure that the forest does burn.
Yeah. No, it's something I think about many times every day. Because it's summer and I'm sitting here surrounded by a dense pine forest, but we also deal with pine beetles and, trees that aren't that susceptible when they're healthy, but in drought conditions become weaker and more susceptible to beetles and other disease. There's also, it's a really interesting issue in Texas. There's not a lot of public land in the state. There's a national park, a national monument, not a lot of state parkland, and it's really hard to do research on state parkland. And so for environmental and biological researchers, there isn't a lot of land in the different ecosystems of Texas to research on. And so that's part of our wildlife management plan, is to also host researchers who are studying everything from leafcutter ants to hummingbird speciation to specific rare species of prairie grasses and plants. And we open our ranch to researchers. We help sponsor some of their research. And in exchange, we're designated as sort of ecological laboratory by the state, which
love it.
So rewarding. I mean, as a biology nerd, I find it very rewarding. A lot of the researchers are like, oh, you want to follow us? I'm like, yeah, I want to ask you questions about what you're doing. They're like, ranchers usually don't want to do that. But we love just opening it up as a sort of place of just learning and inquiry. And
I love it. Well, transparency, man. It's what it's all about, right? It's about being fully transparent. And I think it's wonderful that you are helping out and creating that environment. I think the goat thing is fantastic. And you've been doing goats for a while, and you're crazy.
Goats. They're awesome. We also do chickens, mainly for eggs, but also a little bit for meat.
But they're not gonna jack you up like a goat will jack you up. If a goat gets into a mood, that's like 50 chickens getting pissed off.
Oh yeah.
So I want to shift gears a little bit and have a little bit of fun with you, if you don't mind. I want to pick on you a little bit. We'll have a little bit here. Tell me something. Who's your favorite actor out there today? And you can't say Zoe, because then that's just too campy. So you're going to have to come up with something. Favorite actor or actress out there today?
All right, it's funny. I didn't premeditate that question at all. So I don't, I am going to have to say, because I'm so recently moved by her most recent performance, is Kate Winslet, because of her performance in Mayor of Easttown.
Yeah. She's
one of the, insanely, and if you're going to ask me my favorite TV show of the moment, it was that one, just because it blew me away 2 weeks ago. But holy shit, here's a British woman being a just utterly mind-blowingly accurate, believable homicide detective in Pennsylvania. Like, Jesus, she's talented.
Unbelievable. I loved it. Who, if you could invite somebody to a dinner party, dead or alive, who would you invite?
Oh God.
Oh, yeah, putting you on the spot, man. No freebies at the end.
Yeah, no, it's one I hadn't premeditated. It's an incredibly tough one. Yeah, no, I'm grasping at straws here, but just in terms of people who I think who I admire deeply and would love to sit with and hear about their life and work, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Jane Goodall.
Oh, great call. Nice.
I imagine that being, and it's funny, I've actually been at dinner she's been at, but never really gotten to pick her brain directly. And that's why, like, I think that would be a delightful conversation about
I
just
think that'd
someone
be killer.
who's a really, I mean, known for her research and her work, but like just an innovative thinker and a deeply committed person with a clear, true north that she lives by.
To tell you what, you pull that off, I'm in.
All right.
Count me in.
Make a
Done.
reservation for Expo West next year or something.
Done. Dog or a cat? Which one?
Well, I mean, I have many of both, but dog.
You know what? That is truly the only right answer.
Yeah. I have working cats. Their job is to keep the barn free of mice. They have jobs to do.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
Yeah. My dog, normally, if I wasn't recording a podcast, because he barks a bit, my dog would be sitting like right here on this little ottoman.
Mine's with me all the time. I kick her out of here when I'm doing this too. All right, final quick one. So you find a bottle on the beach, right? You find the genie in the bottle, and the genie pops out, and you get 3 wishes. Give me one of your wishes.
Oh, wow.
I stumped you. I got you stumped twice today.
You want us to be like a really cool, perfect answer. I'm gonna be like kind of serious and earnest with this answer.
Go.
And I'm not gonna ask for like $1 million. I'm gonna I want that genie to help people be less afraid to change their mind.
Beautiful answer.
I want that genie to spread a virus or a bacteria that just makes people a little more humble and a little more willing to open themselves to new ideas and change their minds and not be embarrassed about it. I think that's one of the problems we're facing.
That's powerful. I like that. That's a hell of a good answer. You know, man, I got to tell you, I think what you guys are doing is just killer. I think it's so worthy of people's time. It's worthy of their energy. It's worthy of uplifting, which is what this platform is all about, which is so important to me, is getting these messages out about making changes, you know, and they're not complicated changes. These are not hard changes, right? And we're not asking people to do hard things. We're asking people to do smart things and to think things through a little bit. And I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate your team and what you're doing, where you're heading. I wish you guys nothing but the absolute success of the planet. I hope everybody jumps on board. I hope your phone's ringing off the hook. I hope you get mad at me because your phone's ringing off the hook. You know, and I just wanted to say that from the bottom of my heart, that I think that it's just so powerful. It's so great to see this transparency. It's so great to see brands being uplifted.
And Todd, likewise too, I want to thank you for that from the bottom of my heart. That means the world's coming from you. And thank you for what you're doing with, you know, you're very lucky and to have built this amazing network of people through your great work on organics and in produce, and to be, you know, doing what you're doing with this Todd-versations to amplify, elevate, and lift up those stories and help more people hear them, leveraging your connections and your network and your natural talent as a host. It's awesome and mind-blowing, and I couldn't be happier you're doing this, and I look forward to listening to more of these.
Thank you, bro. That really does mean a lot to me, and that's the reason we want to do it. I got one final question I want to throw at you, though, on our way out the door. If you could only say one thing about Merryfield, about how Merryfield's working to change the world, what would you say?
Merryfield is here to help you as a consumer get educated, better understand which brands you can trust, and give you peace of mind. You know, knowing that they've been vetted, meet high standards, that they're really purpose-driven brands that you can buy without worrying.
I can't top that, man.
Kind of long-winded, but
hell no, that's not long-winded at all. I can't top that.
Know is that, you know, and that at the end of the day, like we're, you know, this is important. It goes back to Whole Foods and the work I've done with USDA and non-GMO. Like I always see my standards work as working as an advocate and a researcher on behalf of the shopper and the consumer. Right. Not a sales agent working on behalf of the brands or the big companies selling the products. Like we at and it's true with Merryfield and how we built it. Like we see our work as a clean council, and a team is working on behalf of consumers like us who want to buy better stuff and trust it.
I love it. What a great response. Joe, again, I can't thank you enough. To the team at Merryfield, you guys don't let up, keep the foot on the pedal. No matter how hard your day gets, keep the fight, because you're doing the right thing for the right reason. I appreciate you. Thanks everybody for hanging out and chatting with us. I'm glad we got to spend this time with you, Joe. It really inspired my day today tremendously. And we're going to do this again. We get this produce thing up. We'll come back. Let's keep talking because people need to know. We want to keep this conversation rolling. So thanks everybody for stopping by. We appreciate it. Thank you, Brother Joe. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Todd. And thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
All righty. Thank you again, everybody, for hanging out with us. Joe Dickson, Merryfield, get on it. I don't have anything else to say. They're doing the right thing for the right reason, and that should give you enough motivation to go check them out. I appreciate them very much for taking the time to be here. I look forward to further chats with them down the road and see what they're up to. Again, certainly worthy of your time and energy. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate you. Don't forget to check us out on all the social media sites, Instagram, TLC Todd-versations, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're all over the place hanging out. The audio version is available on all the podcast channels worldwide, as well as the video portion is available on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for listening and putting us a part of your life and inside your brain, rattling around some ideas. I hope you get fired up and motivated. And remember, I say it all the time, and I truly mean it. Go inspire somebody today. It's really, really important. It'll make a difference in their day, and it'll especially make a big difference in yours. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you soon. Take care.